This month on Weekly in Sports, the PWHL expanded to a 12-team league. Who are the four new teams in the league? What's going on in Blue Jays land? All this and more on this month's edition of Weekly in Sports. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to Weekly in Sports. I am your host, Scott McGregor, and I want to welcome you to episode 3 of season 2, and we've got a good one in store for you this month. We are going to talk some PWHL news, including the PWHL class of 2026, latest news around the WNBA, and what's going on in Blue Jays land, with our shoutouts of the month segment just before we chat some WNBA action on the Toronto Tempo and the upcoming play-in tournament the WNBA calls the Commissioner's Cup, which we'll talk about, time permitting, later on in the show. Let's kick things off with a look around the PWHL latest news and one of the highlights as we prepare for the 4th season in league history and another year of expansion in the league. We've got 4 new teams that will begin play in their inaugural season in the league's 2026-2027 season. In fact, let's meet those 4 teams now before we dive into how the expansion process works for 2026 and how it worked last year when the league expanded from 6 teams to 8 teams with the additions of the Vancouver Golden Eyes and the Seattle Torrent. First, let's get a look at PWHL Detroit, one of the 3 new teams from the United States side of the league. PWHL Detroit was the first team to be announced in the class of 2026 expansion for the PWHL, and per their announcement on Wednesday, May 6, 2026. Until that date, the Professional Women's Hockey League had 8 home cities, the inaugural 6, which are Boston, Minnesota, Montreal, New York, Ottawa, and Toronto, and the 2 2025-2026 editions of Seattle and Vancouver. If there was a de facto 9th city, it already was Detroit. Wednesday's exciting news that the Motor City is officially the home of the PWHL's newest team only deepens this relationship. How did the Detroit team have this status already? Well, it was by hosting the and the most takeover tour games and impressing every time. As business operations vice president and PWHL executive Amy Shear said, Detroit has been part of PWHL history since the beginning, from the support shown at our first ever neutral site game at Little Caesars Arena. The city and fans have helped lead the way for the future of pro women's hockey. Indeed, that initial neutral site game, part of the league's initial PWHL takeover tour weekend, before there was a full-blown takeover tour on March 16th, 2024, really started things off strong. Boston, led at that time by Team USA stars Megan Keller and Hillary Knight, faced Ottawa at Little Caesars Arena. Hillary Knight scored the game-winning goal in a shootout to give Boston a thrilling 2-1 win that a crowd of 13,736 fans attended, setting a then USA record for attendance at a professional women's hockey game. It was an early sign that Detroit's reputation as a hockey town extended beyond the NHL and into the women's game. Now, the home of the Detroit Red Wings, the Little Caesars Arena, will be the primary home of PWHL Detroit. And as of late, PWHL Detroit has been handing out news as far as their team, not name, but their team staff is concerned. So before we jump to the next 3 of 4 teams that are joining the league, let's meet the inaugural team staff of PWHL Detroit. Detroit, Michigan, please welcome as your PWHL Detroit inaugural season head coach, Josh Skiba. Josh, if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, I apologize. He has been named the PWHL's Detroit inaugural head coach. We'll get into everything surrounding both coaching and general manager another time, but with the head coach of PWHL Detroit named as Josh Skiba, hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm noticing right now I'm pronouncing it wrong, but that's okay, Josh. I will try to get it right as best I can. And my apologies to the inaugural general manager of PWHL Detroit in Manan Rahimi, Madan R. But the inaugural general manager, Manan Rahim. Hopefully I got that correct. If I did not pronounce it correctly, I apologize. And Josh Skiba, Josh S. I'll go with, just in case I did pronounce it wrong. While the team name has not been determined and we don't know yet where players are going to be, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And if we don't get to the WNBA action or our baseball action, we will make sure that we get there on the next episode. Let's move on and visit with the second team and the only team that is coming out of the Canadian side to join the expansion class. Please welcome to the Canadian side of the PWHL. Please welcome PWHL Hamilton, which will be led by former Boston Fleet head coach Chris Spar, and general manager for the team will be run by Megan Duggan. Megan Duggan is also a special consultant to hockey operations and member of the PWHL's Player Safety Committee. She will be running the general manager duties for PWHL Hamilton in their inaugural season. Their inaugural head coach will be a head coach from the Boston Fleet in Chris Spar. We will touch on Las Vegas and San Jose in just a little bit, but before we do, I'd like to take this opportunity to take a commercial break. While we take that commercial break, I want to remind you that still to come on our expansion process, we will be talking PWHL Las Vegas, meeting the head coach and the general manager, if we have those by the time we are speaking. And we will be talking not just Las Vegas, but we'll also talk San Jose in just a few moments. Also still to come on our program, we are going to talk shoutouts of the month via podcast or just regular shoutouts as we like to do. We've also got some stuff to talk about in the WNBA, including the Commissioner's Cup, which begins in June. By the time you hear this program, it will be getting ready to go. And of course, we got some Blue Jays talk to talk about. I'll give you some of my people who have impressed me. And we'll also talk about where the team is right now, 58 games into a 162 game season. Still more PWHL talk, including how the expansion process is going to work for this year, WNBA, Blue Jays, and more. Don't go anywhere, folks. We will be back with you on Weekly in Sports in just a few moments.
Hey, Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Where we have fun and engaging conversations
about a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Pen is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Welcome back to Weekly in Sports, end of the month May program. On this program, we are doing episode 3 of season 2. Our latest programs on the podcast this season have been for the month of February. And of course, we have done one for the month of March. We were unable to do one for the month of April, but that's okay. Our third episode is coming the way of yours on our end of the month May program, being recorded as we speak with you on Friday, May 29th, 2026. And since then, Season 3 of the PWHL regular season and playoffs has been concluded with our champions for the first time in PWHL history in the Montreal Victoire. They won their best-of-5 series against Ottawa in the first ever all-Canadian Walter Cup clash in PWHL history. Victoire winning in shutout fashion in the last game of the Walter Cup by defeating Ottawa 4-0 on Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, in Game 4 of a best-of-5 Walter Cup series, which almost went the extra mile and actually went the distance. But enough about that. Let's get back to our topic of conversation on the end of the month program. When we last left you, we had visited with the PWHL Detroit and PWHL Hamilton pro teams. I was going to say pro teams, but nope, I meant to say expansion teams. Let's now visit with the other half of the United States club teams that are joining the fray. Starting off with the team that was announced officially before we got to PWHL Hamilton, but both teams were announced within the same week. One was announced on May 13th, the other on May 14th. May 14th was the PWHL Hamilton Club. PWHL Las Vegas was on a Wednesday, which was May 13th, I believe. I meant to say 14th. Just quickly double check here. Nope. Wednesday was the 13th, which was when Las Vegas was introduced to the league. Hamilton introduced on Thursday on May 14th, 2026. Anyways, before we get to the news on the coaching for Las Vegas, we don't have, at this current time, a head coach for that team, but let's get to know them. Well, you know what? I could go to read the announcement, but you know what? We're going to read about their general manager first. That is Dominique Dida. Welcome to your PWHL inaugural general manager, Dominique Dida. She will handle the general manager duties for PWHL Las Vegas, team to be named later, just as much as PWHL Detroit and PWHL Hamilton. Announcement was made on the Wednesday that the appointment of Dominique Dida to the position of general manager for PWHL Las Vegas, an accomplished sports executive. Dominique joins from CW, where she launched the agency's women's hockey department and served as co-head of the division, working closely with professional and amateur women hockey athletes on representation, marketing, and career development. According to PWHL Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations Jana Hefford, Dominique brings a unique combination of experience as a player, hockey executive, and advocate for the women's game. She understands the evolving landscape of women's hockey and has a strong vision for building a team and culture that reflects both the ambition of the PWHL and the energy of the Las Vegas market. We're excited to have her leading this next chapter for our league. And you know what? I would be excited too. If I was in Vegas, I would be excited. All right. It should also be noted that the home of the NHL's Las Vegas team, the Vegas Golden Knights, who are currently in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Vegas Golden Knights, will also be the home of the PWHL Las Vegas team, which is T-Mobile Arena. With that said, let's quickly go over to San Jose to find out our latest news on San Jose. And our latest news, I can't see a general manager yet for PWHL San Jose. Nope, we do have it. But guess what? We have a 2-for-1 special in the Bay Area. Former head coach of the Toronto Scepters, Troy Ryan, is going to be both behind the bench and working behind the scenes. We got a 2-for-1 special. Not only is Troy Ryan going to be behind the bench, but he's also going to be the big boss man working the trades. I don't know if this is a great opportunity for Troy Ryan, but we'll be happy for him regardless, because I think you're getting a treat, San Jose. You're getting a guy that will handle coaching and be the general manager for the inaugural season in Troy Ryan. Troy has, by the way, done 3 seasons of PWHL hockey as the head coach of the Toronto Scepters, so I'm pretty sure he can handle coaching San Jose. But moving to a new country and also a new opportunity might be a little bit much for a guy like Troy Ryan to handle. He is going to be the general manager as well as the head coach for PWHL San Jose, as it was announced on May 22nd that Troy would be named the general manager and head coach. Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations for PWHL, Jana Hefford, said as Troy gave this an opportunity that he took, Troy is a consummate professional and culture driver who has excelled in leadership roles both in the PWHL and with Canada's national women's hockey team on the international stage. Troy has a keen understanding of what it takes to build and lead a high-performing team and his diverse set of experiences and competitive spirit make him a strong fit to hold the dual role of general manager and coach in San Jose. I am honored and incredibly excited to help build this organization in San Jose. Expansion creates a rare opportunity to shape everything with intention, from the standards and culture to people and connection to the community. We want to build a team that plays with purpose, represents the Bay Area with pride, and helps to continue to grow women's hockey on the West Coast. We know there is a lot of work ahead, and that is exactly what makes this opportunity so special. Troy Ryan will be tasked with building a hockey operations staff and leading the roster building process for PWHL San Jose in their inaugural season 2026-2027, including the 2026 PWHL Draft on June 17th in Detroit later this month. There are 6 phases in the PWHL expansion building process that we will talk about a little bit later in our program, but we are coming up on our next break. So just to finalize things here, at the timing of this report, the comprehensive roster building process for expansion and all phases would be finalized and announced by the league in the coming weeks. So there you have it. You've got a head coach to be named later on PWHL Las Vegas. You got a general manager on both teams, PWHL Las Vegas, PWHL Hamilton, PWHL Detroit, and PWHL San Jose. Plus you've got Detroit, Hamilton, and San Jose, each with a head coach, but one head coach is taking on the role of the general manager and coach. Let me know what your thoughts are, especially if you're in the Bay Area. Let me know what your thoughts are on former head coach of the Toronto Scepters, Troy Ryan, taking on the role of general manager and head coach. And while you do that, let's go ahead and take a look at how the PWHL will be running the 2026 PWHL Player Expansion Distribution process. Now, just like last year, even though there were 4 phases, there weren't really 6 phases as there are this year, but there are 6 phases in this expansion process. The 6th phase process will begin on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026, with off-season open signing period starting on June 19th. With that said, here's how the process works. It will begin in a 6-phase process which will start with June 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern, the preliminary player negotiation period opening. Negotiations, however, as of yesterday at 3 p.m., must have been submitted, as that is phase 1. So as of yesterday, Thursday, May 28th, 2026 at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, phase 1 of the expansion process began, which is called the negotiation list submission deadline. Phase 1 existing team signings and protections will take place from Tuesday, June 2nd to Thursday, June 3rd. I should say Wednesday, June 3rd, because Thursday is the 4th of June. And this is where the existing teams can do signings and protections. However, just like last year, each team that is existing must protect minimum of 3 players, and during this process at a certain phase, existing teams are not allowed, yes, they are not allowed, I should say, let's start with the expansion teams. The expansion teams cannot sign in phase 2 a player that is not on their target, their exclusive negotiating target list. Existing teams can lose a maximum of 3 players who are under contract. However, during phase 1, they can lose a maximum of only 1 player on an expiring contract. Any signed player automatically counts as one of the team's existing 3 protections. Players on expiring contracts may sign with any existing team during phase 1. Phase 1 also means that if players are being protected, 3 players under contract must be protected by existing teams. This process will begin June 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern. They are permitted to begin conversations with players from a fixed list submitted by each club consisting of 10 players they would like to negotiate with. The contracts, however, may not be signed until phase 1 officially begins on Tuesday, June 2nd at 12 p.m. Eastern. That phase of existing team foundational signings and protections will go Tuesday, June 2nd to Wednesday, June 3rd. Phase 2 will feature a signing period from June 5th to June 8th as expansion team foundational signing period. During this phase, expansion teams will each acquire 5 players through signing and, if necessary, a player selection process. The expansion teams must submit a 20-player exclusive negotiation target list identifying players they intend to pursue. Eligible players will include all unprotected players from 2025-2026 rosters. Each expansion team will receive 1 binding expansion foundation offer, allowing them to pursue a cornerstone player through a premium multi-year contract opportunity. Alright, So there are 6 phases. The first 2 phases, as portrayed in key dates, are existing team foundation signing period and protections period, the expansion team foundation signing period, preliminary open signing period, which will run from June 10th to June 12th, expansion signing period, June 14th to June 15th, the existing team executive re-signing period, which is phase 5, and the open signing period, which will begin on June 19th after the PWHL entry draft on June 17th. That existing period, by the way, for re-signing for the existing teams will play out from June 16th to June 18th, including throughout the entry draft process on June 17th, and the award ceremony on June 16th. Both dates will be held in Detroit, Michigan, the home of PWHL Detroit. So you have 6 phases this year. So it is important to note that players may choose to sign with their existing team or wait until the open signing period. Existing teams must make qualifying offers to players selected in the 2025 PWHL Draft whose rights are held for the 2026-27 season in order to retain those rights. Existing teams may negotiate with and sign their own remaining players on expiring contracts who were not signed during phases 1 through 4. So any players on existing teams that are on expiring contracts who were not signed through phase 1 to 4 during the expansion process are allowed to sign with their existing team, and they are also able to negotiate with that existing team they are on. All right, folks, we'll take a commercial break. When we come back, time for some podcast shoutouts of the month. Unfortunately, folks, we are not going to be able to get to our Blue Jays coverage, but that's okay. We'll let the women talk about it today as we are approaching the closing moments of our show. So on our June program, we will talk a little bit more Blue Jays, and we are going to talk some more women, and maybe not so much the PWHL, but definitely WNBA. Speaking of that, that's coming up in our later segment in just a little bit. But coming up next on Weekly in Sports, end of the month May program, we are going to talk podcast shoutouts of the month and reveal to you a little bit about where the Blue Jays do stand. So we are going to get a little bit of talk for the Blue Jays, all before we take a 5-minute break to hear a word from our good friends over at Sienna T Radio and the Musa Slobodian Network before we set the scene for the month of June show. And of course, take a look at the primer for the WNBA Commissioner Cup 2026. All that coming up in just a few short moments.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo. 2 powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Have you ever wondered about the books we've been reading throughout the week?
Are you looking for friendly banter and technology tips at the same time?
Then you've come to the right place.
Check out The Ali and McCara Show. It airs live on Sunday afternoons at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Until spring. In the spring, we'll switch back to Mondays.
To learn more about the show, please visit thealiandmccarashow.ca.
While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. And besides, it's free.
Enter your email address and hit subscribe.
The Ali and McCara Show is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca.
Enter your email and hit subscribe so you never miss network updates.
All right, folks, welcome back to Weekly in Sports, Episode 3, Season 2. Our end of the month May program, normally the 3rd episode, as I am your host, Scott McGregor, welcoming you back to the program. Our 3rd episode would be the April program, but for this show, it is our May program. We tried to do 12 episodes in our first season, and we did do that, but we'll see how many we can get to in season 2. One quick note, speaking of those episodes and the month, the end of the month October program will be coming a little bit earlier as we coincide with Halloween around the last day of the month in October. But that's down the road in October. We got a couple of months to get there. First, we got to get to the summer month, which is June, July, and August. But before we go there, time now for some podcast shoutouts of the month. And before we get started, as we're here with you for just a little bit while longer, not too much longer, but we are with you here for just a little bit longer, maybe 20 minutes or so longer, but that's okay. We'll hang back with you for a little bit. Before we get to our podcast shoutouts of the month, here's how it works, as this is our segment. Over the course of the month of each show, before we begin our show, listeners are encouraged to check out their favorite podcasts and give us a list through our podcast email under the Sports for Beginners podcast email. Sports for Beginners podcast 8231 at gmail.com. Again, that's Sports for Beginners podcast 8231 at gmail.com. Using the subject shoutouts of the month. We normally call it shoutouts of the week, but you can call it whatever you want to call it, and bring your submissions there. You can also do so on WhatsApp through our general area on our Sports for Beginners WhatsApp group chat. We also have a Discord server for Weekly in Sports, but you can also do so via the comments section below in YouTube or on Spotify or however your favorite podcatcher works that you can get the show on. Weekly in Sports right now is on Apple and Spotify and YouTube, but nowhere else at this current time. With that all being said, before the show, the listeners are encouraged to provide us with some people they would like to have a shout out on. And of course, podcasts that they would like the host, which is myself, to maybe check out. With that said, 4 shout outs of the month for time constraints. Most are through podcasts. And the first shout outs of the month are going to go to my good friend Melanie Taddeo, who runs a Melanie Minute on the Connect for Life podcast. But she is also a member of another founding Connect for Life charity in South Africa called Connect for Life South Africa. I want to also shout out a former guest who joined us on our last meeting, Nancy Chander. I want to give a shout out to Nancy Chander. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. Sorry, Nancy, if I pronounce your last name wrong. Let me try that one more time. Nancy Chandra. There we go. I think I got it right that time. But if I pronounced it wrong, I apologize. Melanie, you and Nancy are going to get shout outs of the week, of the month, I should say, to kick us off. Another person to get a shout out. She's now been with us twice on Weekly in Sports and keeps you up to date on Black Rosie Media on both things happening with the PWHL Seattle team, the Seattle Torrent, the Seattle Kraken, even though she's not with the Locked On Podcast Network anymore. She does coverage for the Seattle Kraken on her own platform, Black Rosie Media. And also coverage that can be found there is on the WNBA, particularly on the Seattle Storm and the New York Liberty. Speaking of the WNBA, one of the recent programs that I was able to check out before the Toronto Temple became a team was Bringing Home the W, and that's quite a program, I must say. Also, a big shout out goes to, speaking of Locked On, all of those great hosts out there on Locked On Podcast Network, including the always great Bills fan, Joe Marino, who also does a show with Kyle Krabs on Locked On called Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, Joe Marino of Locked On Bills and Kyle Krabs of Locked On Dolphins. And with that said, also want to issue a shout out to Hunter Hoodies and his partner, Patrick Damp, doing great work as always for Locked On Penguins. And speaking of the Pittsburgh Penguins, just before we wrap up this segment, as we approach the end of our show, the Pittsburgh Penguins have re-signed Evgeny Malkin. Evgeny Malkin has re-signed a one-year deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Details on our June month program to follow. But if you can't wait that long, don't worry about it. I'm sure people at DK Pittsburgh Sports or Locked On Penguins or anywhere you find Penguins coverage, including the flagship station for Pittsburgh Penguins radio hockey, WXDX FM Pittsburgh, have you covered for all the latest on the return of Evgeny Malkin. One thing I can tell you about the deal is that it is a one-year deal, but I will talk about how much it's worth for the 1 year another time. Time now for our final break of the show. It will be a quick 5-minute one to hear a word from the good folk over at the Musa Slobodian Network and our good friends over at Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. Coming out of the timeout, we will talk WNBA, look at the primer for the Commissioner Cup. And just before we go to the break, I want to let you know that the Blue Jays are currently, as we speak with you, they'll be done this probably by the time the show comes out, but they are currently on the road playing a 4-game set against division opponents in the Baltimore Orioles. They most recently won the opener 2-1 over the Orioles when old friend Chris Bassett pitched against Patrick Corbin, and it looked like George Springer was having a little fun with Chris Bassett, but Chris Bassett was having the game face on. Interesting. We'll talk about that more on the June program. Speaking of that, Weekly in Sports end of the month May program and our 3rd episode of season 2 of Weekly in Sports comes to an end right after this from the good folk at the Musa Slobodian Network and Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time.
Have you ever wondered about the books we've been reading throughout the week?
Are you looking for friendly banter and technology tips at the same time?
Then you've come to the right place.
Check out the Ali and McCarra Show. It airs live on Sunday afternoons at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Until spring. In the spring, we'll switch back to Mondays.
To learn more about the show, please visit thealiandmccarrashow.ca.
While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. And besides, it's free.
Enter your email address and hit subscribe.
The Ali and McCarra Show is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca.
Enter your email and hit subscribe so you never miss network updates.
Sienna T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Sienna T Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Sienna T Radio.
Hey Ali, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Where we have fun and engaging conversations.
About a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Pen is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Welcome back, folks, to Weekly in Sports, Episode 3, Season 2. our end of the month May program, we are talking about the PWHL Expansion. WNBA, we did talk a little bit about the Blue Jays, not necessarily where they stand, but we did talk about that they are currently playing a 4-game set against the Baltimore Orioles. We did our shoutouts of the month for podcasts and in general. Before we touch on June, which is our next month's show, maybe we'll get to a July, but we will see what happens with June. Let's take a look as we turn the page to a little WNBA talk. Commissioner's Cup. Well, what to expect in this Commissioner's Cup? As published last Friday, May 22nd, 2026. Was that last Friday? Quickly check here. Yep, last Friday, May 22nd, 2026, at 1:27 p.m. Eastern. The Commissioner's Cup, held by the WNBA since 2021, has been a sly viewing window into what the postseason field could shape up to be once we hit September and October. Several recent Cup winners or runners-up in those championship games have gone on to appear in the WNBA Finals, most recently the Indiana Fever, Las Vegas Aces, New York Liberty, and Minnesota Lynx, have dominated the Commissioner's Cup and have either made deep postseason runs or reached the finals. It makes the in-season tournament all the more exciting, as it's an excellent way for teams to differentiate themselves as contenders. Hopefully I got that correct, making sure I'm getting that right. Anyways, moving on from the contender part, months before the postseason even kicks off. Plus, it's for a great cause. Each team dedicates a portion of their winnings after each game of the tournament to a charity of their choice. Players keep the rest of those earnings, with the Cup winners receiving a prize pool for the championship team's entire active roster. There's an unbelievable amount of party in the league headed into the first games of the tournament. So the competitiveness for this year's Cup in its 6th year should be off the charts. Here's just a few things fans should expect from this year's go-around. So just in case we are not aware, the WNBA Commissioner's Cup is a play-in tournament to kind of shape up what the WNBA postseason will look like once we get to September and October. A few things to keep in mind and what we should be looking at are high-scoring games, threats to the status quo, key matchups like the Wings, who will kick off Commissioner Cup play on June 1st when they travel to Seattle to face the Storm, and of course, so much more. Speaking of the Commissioner Cup, why don't we take a look at the June 1st schedule, shall we? There are 2 games that will be played on June 1st, which is Monday, when the Commissioner's Cup begins, and those 2 games will feature the Seattle Storm, against the Dallas Wings. Game time will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. The other game on the first day of Commissioner Cup timeline in the tournament will be at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, and that will feature the Minnesota Lynx against the Phoenix Mercury. Now, when do the Toronto Tempo play in their first action? Well, for that, you've got to wait till Wednesday, June 3rd, when Toronto goes one-on-one with the New York Liberty. And as we speak, before we even get there, the New York Liberty will have to take on the Phoenix Mercury tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, as we are recording this. And the Seattle Storm and the Toronto Tempo will meet on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern for their second matchup in both teams, in Toronto's, inaugural season, and the Seattle Storm's next season. I gotta look back to see when the Seattle Storm first joined the league to see how long they have been a team, but this will be the second meeting, and it will be the second meeting both teams have had in Toronto, where that series of matchups began back on May 13th. All right, folks, a little Commissioner Cup update that we got from Toronto Tempo, and of course, we talked about the action in day 1 of Commissioner Cup action. That will be the Dallas Wings against the Seattle Storm at 8 p.m. Eastern on June 1st. The other game of that first day will be between the Minnesota Lynx and the Phoenix Mercury. Right now, the records for both teams heading into that game. For Seattle, they are 3-5, heading into their showdown on Saturday, as well as Monday, June 1st, but that will change before June 1st. The Dallas Wings are 5-3, Minnesota 5-2, Phoenix 2-6. Not exactly ideal for Phoenix, but that's okay. Remember, that is just a play-in tournament, and a lot can still happen in a 44-game season. That said, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Weekly in Sports. But coming up on episode 4 of the program, whether it's on June or July, hopefully it'll be a June show. On that program, we are going to talk Blue Jays baseball. Who has impressed? Who is still on the injured list? Of course, by that time, the Blue Jays will be just about under 60 games through the 162-game season. The point is they won't be through 58 games. They'll be through more than 58 games in a 162-game season. We will continue to talk WNBA as the Commissioner's Cup rolls on. We will talk Toronto Tempo. And for the duration of Weekly in Sports, we're going to leave our shoutouts of the month for the July program, because there's going to be a lot that we're going to want to talk about in June, especially going into our August program. But we'll get to our August programming and our July programming during the June show. That said, that is going to do it for us here on Weekly in Sports. I'd like to thank you all for joining us on this great program. A little bit longer than I would have liked, but that's okay. We'll make do with what we have. And I do invite you to join us again next time in our 4th episode of Season 2, whether that's June or July. Hopefully it's June, but we will see how it goes. On that show, we will talk Blue Jays baseball. We will talk WNBA as far as the Commissioner Cup, and of course Toronto Tempo. We will also talk Stanley Cup playoffs as we get ready for the Stanley Cup Finals, and perhaps we'll recap action from the NHL Draft as they prepare, like the PWHL right now is preparing for the 2026-2027 season. Please note the start time of the NHL 2026-2027 season is not quite determined yet, but should be by the time we have a champion for 2026-2025 season. 2025-2026 season, excuse me. But all that aside, the Vegas Golden Knights have booked their ticket to the Stanley Cup Final and await their opponent. Will we talk NBA? Yes, we will. But when will it be? Probably not till our July show. Of course, by then the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals probably will be done. But we'll get to when we get to it. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. I am Scott McGregor, thanking you for joining us and saying this has been Weekly in Sports. We will talk to you again in the month of June. Until then, go out, enjoy the hot weather, enjoy an ice cream as we get closer into summertime, and make sure you come back whenever possible. If you go on a walk, maybe you want to listen to the program, whatever you fancy, we'll be there to join you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you again real soon. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.